What's up, everyone? Welcome to Level 7. It is time for another episode of the Agents of Fandom podcast. I'm your host, TJ Zwarich, ready to talk another episode of Agatha All Along. Joining me, as always, my co-host for the Agatha shows and co-host of the Comic Corner podcast, Damon Gray.
Greetings. Good evening, everybody. What a wonderful episode that was.
That was truly an awesome episode, and you've done some research in the last 20 minutes, making yourself now an expert in the phases of the moon.
Yes, as one does at 9:45 p.m. on a Wednesday evening.
Helping us out to break down the show today, we brought in the witchiest person we know, our most highly anticipated episode of our live show so far. The people have been waiting for it. Jamie Jirak, welcome and thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I know when we were talking about what episode, you were like, episode 4, right? And I was like, yeah, episode 4, that's the one.
Exactly. I was so excited to talk about this one with you, specifically like how wonderful Aubrey, Plaza, and Catherine Hahn are together, how wonderful Rio and Agatha are anytime they are on screen. I can't wait to dive in. Thank you to everyone who is joining us live. If you're watching us on YouTube, smash the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our shows. We got lots of great shows coming with episodes of The Penguin, not House of the Dragon, The Rings of Power, Agatha All Along, dropping each and every week, as well as the Comic Corner. We got some fun interviews that just dropped. Renzi Feliz, who plays Victor Aguilar, as well as Camilo in Encanto, as well as Alex Wilder in Marvel's The Runaways. So check out that interview on our YouTube page, and also check out my recent conversation with Lenore Zan, X-Men's Rogue. We chatted about her new book, her new memoir, A Rogue's Tale, so you can check that one out as well. Like I said, subscribe because we got a lot of really fun stuff coming. Jamie, I'll start with you. General thoughts on the first 4 episodes. We are now caught up. We're caught up with the screeners. Everything's going forward is going to be brand new. What have you thought about the first 4 episodes?
I know it's crazy. I'm with everyone now. It's nice to be on the same page as everyone else. I'm loving it. Come on. It's made for me in every single way possible. There are songs, there are witches, there are sapphic undertones, not even undertones anymore. Let's be honest. The tones are out, baby. we're in it. I made a TikTok about Rio and Agatha, and I said we're close to canon sapphic witches, and everyone's like, close? It's happening. And I really meant we're close to a kiss, but we'll talk about, I'm sure we're going to talk deep about that later. But no, I love the show. It's everything. I'm listening to Witches Road so often that even Tony, my boyfriend, like the other day he was in the kitchen and I was just like sitting and he's like, hey, put on Witches Road. And I was like, oh, that's my man right there.
I've been listening to it nonstop. It's basically like it's not like, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's absolutely incredible, but it's not like the type of song that I typically throw on and it's like, all right, time to jam out, you know? But it's just in my head at all times. Like, it never leaves. It's just always there. The bell is constantly ringing and leading me to the next verse in my head at 100% of the time. Damon, we are almost halfway through this series now. What have you thought of the first 4 episodes?
Man, it's been fun. It's been a fun series. That's what I wanted out of the series. I wanted it to be fun. And that's exactly what we've got. And each episode so far, after the first 2, we've gotten a little step into more of the horror and the spooky. And we got a little bit more into this one. And I hope we get a little bit more into the next one. And those aspects of it are some of my favorite things about the show.
I teased this last week that I thought episode 4 was by far the spookiest one we had gotten so far. What do you think about? Was I correct? What did you think of the horror aspects of this episode?
They gave me like red lipstick face Insidious demon vibes personally, and I love that because I kind of have like a soft spot for that movie in my heart. A different type of horror than the last episode, where it had more of like that noir, creepy, eerie, slow to it. This was just, we have a demon in the room, everybody, here we go. And that's a fun aspect too.
Jamie, what about you? What did you think about the horror aspects? Do you agree that this was the spookiest one yet?
I think 3 was spookier. I think watching
Mm.
them all kind of face whatever like weird nightmare thing they had was like very tense, especially in that like setting. This like kind of beach house, bright, pretty setting, but then it's like getting scary. But that demon in this episode was crazy. So it's funny. It's been a couple months since I watched this one, so I was excited to watch it again tonight. And there were a couple things I forgot, and I forgot how scary that was. I really was like, whoop, whoop, it got me.
I think it's time to go full spoilers here. So if you have not watched the episode yet, join us when you have. We will be on the podcast feed. It'll be available on YouTube. We thank you so much for joining us. We do have a really active chat so far. People are theorizing, people are chatting. So thank you so much to everyone who is here. You have questions for us, drop them in the chat. You have some theories, drop them in there as well. The only thing we ask is if you have seen any Funko spoilers, things like that, don't drop that in chat. But anything else, fair game. Let's get into it. Well, almost fair game. I'm going to try and swear a little less on this one compared to the last show, because now that we're a YouTube partner and we're monetized, they limited our ads on the last one because of the F-bombs. And so maybe I will relax on that one a little bit, but we'll see. No promises, no guarantees. We get trial number 2. It's Alice Wu's trial on this one. And Damon, you brought up at the start of this series that you didn't realize, like, oh, this is actually a comic character. I know who this is. This is somebody, this is the Wu. And it's been a bit of a change on the backstory, a bit of an adaptation. What have you thought about what they're doing here in trial number 2?
Yeah, I mean, the Wu's definitely a character you kind of can do whatever you want with. She was in the Scarlet Witch Witch's Road comic, was in there for about like an issue or so for an arc, and that's about it that we've seen of the Wu. There's not a terribly long like history with her. I do wish that she just kept a little bit of the coral aspect. She's more orangey in this instead of like the coral aspect. But other than that, that's fine. We still have a good relationship with her and her mom though, and that's like the key thing with her character. So I thought it's an interesting take, and I like the musical element to it at the very least as well.
Yeah, that was an absolute ton of fun. Before we dive into the trial itself, I found it's so interesting where each of these characters, I think more so than I realized even upon my first watch, have a lot more individual backstory to them, and they're not just going to be random people joining the coven. And we get to see that with the curse here. You know, Agatha thought that she wanted to join the quest because she was going to be finding her mom. Well, it turns out she knows what was happening to her mom, and there was a lot more to it than that. What did you think about the expanded lore on Alice's character specifically, Jamie?
Cool. I really like her. What's so cool is I like every single one of these people. Like they're all such good characters, and I've read the James Robinson run, and I don't even remember her. So like now you're making me want to go back because she is, and there must be brief because I do not remember.
It's super brief.
Yeah. I think it's the whole concept is cool. The idea of a generational curse. I think that's a really interesting thing, and it's it's got to be a complicated thing when your mother's like famous, and I like just that whole idea, this whole story that they've got going on.
That was my favorite aspect too, with the generational curse. And I'll skip ahead a little bit in the episode just because I forgot to put this in the rundown. But the way that the ballad is actually a protection spell, and the reason her mother was pushing so hard to make this song famous was so that it was always playing on the airwaves somewhere in the world to keep Alice free from this curse and to keep her protected from this curse. I thought that was a super, super cool mystical element that they threw in there. Even if Damon, like you said, some of the like order that they're doing the moon faces, it doesn't really make sense. I'm just so excited to dive into the magic and witchy lore of things I don't know about, because I find it like want to be one of the most interesting corners of the MCU. But the biggest part about this episode, the biggest flaw I think that last episode had, was the lack of Aubrey Plaza. And in this episode, she's back. She rises from the grave. Sharon is gone. Miss Hart is no longer here. What did you think of Aubrey's entrance, Jamie?
God, can this woman be any hotter? It's crazy. Like, and she's like, I did not really care for Megalopolis, but like every moment she's on screen, it's like, oh my God, I don't know how, like, women. She's just so cool, this character. I love the way that she's an antagonist to Agatha. I love their dynamic. Everything about it is hot. And like she's funny and she's cool and she's dangerous. And it was a little scary when she came out of the ground. I like that they thought it was Sharon but a zombie at first. Like, nope.
Damon, how about you? Because I couldn't agree more. Like it's the Pam Beasley gif of just hot. And that's what it is every time Aubrey Plaza comes on screen.
TJ really just like zombie woman coming out of the ground, I guess. I don't know, but it's
look. You make fun of me because I thought Lola Bunny was hot as a kid. You think I'm not gonna think zombie Aubrey Plaza is hot?
Anyway, yeah, no, like I really enjoyed her coming out of the ground like that because it's really cool. It reminds me of when Wanda was kind of coming out of the reflections and multiverse of madness. That's like one of my favorite parts is coming out, getting all like bent out of shape, and then at the very end you need to snap your neck into position, almost out to a T. It's just so good. I'm a sucker for that. It's great.
I'm happy you brought that up because I'm gonna see if I can actually specifically find it. My Agatha All Along episode 4 recap and review just dropped on agentsofandom.com, and I'm pretty sure I wrote that as a direct line. Is that Rio Vidal emerges from the ground with body contortions similar to Wanda Maximoff in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, because that was the exact same thing I thought of when I was watching this as well. But one of the things that I'm still really interested to see how it plays out with her character and all of them is they touch on when they're putting the coven together, and Agatha ultimately just goes and grabs Sharon instead, but they need a green witch, earth power, which is arguably the most important along the road. Now, they've shown that Jennifer Kale, the potions master, she is the water witch, the water element. We saw it in this episode that Alice is the fire element witch. That leads me to believe that Lilia, Patti LuPone's character, is very likely going to be wind. Jamie, do you think these signs are going to be important, or are they just kind of fun ways of categorizing them? And if they're all earth, wind, fire, and water, where does that leave Teen and Agatha?
That's an interesting question. I kind of thought something kind of fun, but maybe Agatha is like, somehow all of it. I don't know. I truly feel like there is an answer here, but it's not my area of expertise. Like you were talking about the moons and stuff. I don't know. I'm not a crystal girly. I don't know a lot about those things. I learned last week that the Eye of Newt mustard seed thing is real. That's a real thing. I thought they made it up for this show, but that's true. So I'm learning along the way.
Is that just a gross way of saying honey? I loved the way that they did that in the last episode. I thought that was hilarious. Damon, what do you think? Is there more to it with these elemental signs? Or is Agatha the Avatar, and each of them are benders from their own nations?
Well, TJ, I did just become an expert in moon phases over the last 25 to 30 minutes, so buckle up, because I almost imagined that first episode they started with a new moon, but they started with a full moon, because in this episode we had the waxing moon, which is like the first phase of the moon. So we went from a full to the first phase, where it kind of, as they had in the lyrics of one of the episodes of WandaVision, we're making it up as we go along. And if that's the case, that's fine. I'm totally down with that. Because even the elements themselves, like, from this very extensive research I did over less than an hour ago, the elements don't really match up with, like, much of anything. There's no real consistency here with it all. What does Agatha and Teen have to do with, like, maybe the phases or the elements? They probably don't have to do anything, because what did Agatha say? And I'm starting to believe maybe she did go down the witch's road at one point, because what did Agatha say? How many witches did she end up with when she left the road at the very end? How many others did she have with her? It was one. So I don't know what happens to maybe the other 4.
Very interesting point. I hadn't thought that through. We did pose that question last week, Jamie. I'll get your thoughts on it too. It kind of seemed to me like the rumors of Agatha walking the road may not have been true, because anytime somebody asks her about it, she just kind of like, oh yeah, no, it was this, and then just sort of moved on, tried to shuck off the question. I'm wondering now, reconsidering, could it potentially just be that maybe it was a traumatic experience, and so that's why she just shucks it off?
I think that she did, but like everybody died, and so she didn't want to bring that up. Like I feel like every time something came up, it's like, oh yeah, some people died, because we know that Agatha's been responsible for witches' deaths before. I mean, the Salem 7, we saw it in WandaVision, and or no, the Salem 7 are the ones, the women from Salem, and now I think isn't it? Are the Salem 7 are like the daughters of those? Is that what's going on? Is that a thing?
I don't know. I think
there's no like real concise like answer
Okay.
to who exactly like this version of the Salem 7 are, because we almost imagine, like you said in WandaVision, we saw Agatha stealing the powers of all the witches around her, like, oh, maybe that could have been the MCU Salem 7, but they didn't necessarily say then. So we're definitely getting different versions of like an MCU version of that here.
Yeah, exactly. I think that makes sense. And I do wonder if maybe these are the Salem 7 are just demons of all the people that she killed when they tied her up to the stake, like just demon undead versions of them. But I think we'll see. I think we haven't seen the last of the Salem 7 in this series. I think they're definitely going to be coming back here, probably waiting for Agatha as soon as they get out of the road. My initial thought of if they're each of the elements, where does that leave Teen and Agatha, was maybe Agatha represents darkness and Teen represents light. But Aubrey's character seems to embody darkness quite a bit, and so I'm wondering if maybe that wouldn't actually make sense. But that was my initial theory that I had for it. Jamie, I want to take me through your thoughts when we actually get to, I've described it as like a cabin in the woods looking thing, but Alice Wu said it was her first childhood house. And we get into the immediate 60s vibes with the bandanas,
70s.
the hair.
It's
70s.
70s.
Apologies.
Yes.
Apologies. 70s.
Come on,
That's why I'm throwing this question to you first, because what did you think of the aesthetic of Trial 2?
The 70s are my favorite decade. I obviously wasn't alive, but they're my 2 favorite movies of all time are made in the 70s. I think a lot of the best movies ever made are made in the 70s. I loved how awful the clothes were, and but how interesting, like everything about it. I'm also really into 70s TV. The Teen was like pure David Cassidy in this, and I think that's hilarious. It's just it's an era that I always want to see the most. Like in WandaVision, it was like the Brady Bunch episode, and as I've talked about many times, I'm a huge Brady Bunch fan. So all the aesthetics, also the fact that they gave us both Aubrey and Catherine in that low cut outfit. Like, what are you doing to me? You're like killing me. You're like I can't even handle it. I actually, my best friend Jake, I suggested we be Agatha and Teen for Halloween in those costumes, but I honestly don't know how I would make that. Like, I don't know how, but I would like to wear some gold hot pants for sure. But everything about it, I loved it.
There are going to be many great Halloween costumes that come out of this show regardless. Like, if you can't pull off one, or if you don't know how to make one or find pieces to one, there's a good chance you're going to find 6 or 7 others that are going to be really, really doable from this series, because there was some really, really awesome looks there. And like you said, like, what are they doing to me with the open shirt? I feel like we've had so many MCU projects promised of like, this is the sexiest Marvel project yet. Eternals is gonna have a sex scene. Oh, I feel like I've heard from 2 or 3 different projects, this will be the gayest Marvel project yet. Agatha All Along is all those things. Like, it actually is kind of delivering on each of those levels where we've been promised that it would in the past. They're actually coming through with these. Damon, what did you think about the aspects of this generational curse? Jamie and I kind of gave our thoughts on it before, but didn't throw it to you as much, with not just maybe the history of it, but how they have to dispel it with the music, it coming through as a protection spell and being the key to Alice's trial. And Teen, of course, being the one to curse all of them.
I mean, I love the fact that like the curse started because of a record that was played backwards. That's such a fun little start, and I was like, oh yeah. And then naturally they broke the record for whatever reason. I mean, they panicked. I get it, they panicked. But the fact that like this version of the song is also slightly different than like the traditional Witches Road song. Like the lyrics are slightly changed to act as a protection spell. So it's almost like I don't know which version I prefer, because yeah, the original version, it's like you got that bell and you got, it's that haunting aspect to it, but this is like a full band. You got the piano going, you got the full chorus going with it as well. It's like I don't know which version of this song I prefer more, but I do really enjoy that it is the music itself that both created and then had to ward and destroy the curse as a whole. It was very cleverly done.
I couldn't agree more with something Stuart said in chat that I want to highlight really quick, that it's so great to get a show like this that is being successful right now and being loved by so many when we're fresh off of something like The Acolyte, where all the annoying dude bros got a win with it being not renewed. And it's nice that it feels like we're coming right back with this one, where it's like, yeah, well, guess what? Here's something else you're not going to like, but it's not for you, and we don't give a damn because it is freaking... I almost dropped the F-bomb. Don't worry, YouTube. I'm ready. I didn't. It's freaking awesome. Jamie, what do you think?
Oh, well, it's also like this is meant to be a limited series, so it's not getting a season 2. So yeah, that's just the end of that. But it is crushing. The numbers that are coming out are so impressive. And it's like, I if you remember back on a podcast I used to be on that I'm not on anymore, there was this Forbes article that came out that was like, Agatha All Along is set to be the least watched Marvel show. And I was like, who said who, Forbes? And I got so mad at Forbes, and now it's like a big F you, Forbes, you were wrong.
Did Forbes, I mean, no, the answer is no, they didn't, because no one saw it. But did Forbes not see Secret Invasion? It's only going up, guys. They're not going to do something that poor again. But this is truly one of the most fun I've had with one of their series in a while. And Damon and I talked about it a bit before, but this feels such like a television show, which is really cool. Yeah. It feels episodic. It doesn't feel like a movie split into multiple different pieces. It feels very episodic. But the reason I thought this was the spookiest episode is when the curse gets unveiled, I thought all the acting performances of the screaming and the burning, they all absolutely crushed it. And the demon stuff was terrifying, with the way it was flinging Teen against the windows back and forth, making him bleed. I thought that aspect was scary as hell. But Damon, when Teen does almost die and gets shaken up here, there are some serious feelings revealed from Agatha that I think are very telling. We've speculated that, and I do want to like the shout out to Fat Thor behind the scenes doing an amazing job producing as per usual. Ask the question to the chat. What do we think? What do we like our versions here? The rock version of the Ballad of the Witches Road, the chant. What are your favorite versions of the Witches Road that we've got so far? Let us know what you think. Damn, I lost my train of thought. Where was I going before that? Oh, Agatha's feelings about Teen. We kind of speculated that she could, at the bare minimum, Teen reminds her of her son, Nicholas Scratch, but because of the sigil, potentially thinks that he could be her son. And as soon as he almost dies, like, we see a different version of Agatha that we have not really seen throughout this series.
Yeah, I mean, look, I am sticking my flag in the ground from episode 1 to our pre-episodes to all of our primers and everything that this is not Nicholas Scratch, and this is just the biggest red herring possible, and if you think so, you're getting got, and I will plant my pole in the ground and not budge until that water drowns me. Because look, I'm saying this is Billy. We're in the multiverse saga. Here we go. This is it. We're doing it. But I do think that she's questioning it at that moment, whether it's because she thinks that this could be her son, which she clearly lost at some point in her life. How she lost Nicholas, we don't know for sure
we'll
yet.
speculate on that later.
And we'll speculate on that later, and I have some theories. But at the very least, this is reminding her of him.
I completely agree. I'm the same way. I've never thought he was Scratch. First of all, that's the bunny's name. Like I think that's important to know. But I do think she thought maybe he was. For sure. And because you see when Rio says that's not your boy, it's very clearly like she's devastated by that news. And I'm interested to see how she's going to treat him going forward. Because she is a little attached to him. And I think that even if he's not her son, I do think she cares a little bit about him.
And I will also say, TJ, like, very important. She even said it too. When I think she said something along the lines of, when the person knows, like, it's when the truth is revealed and the sigil will be lifted. So if she at that point thinks that's her son, or she knows that's her son in a way, the sigil should have been lifted by now.
That's a good point, because they did say that it'll lift whenever it's not needed anymore. So if she gets the answer, that would make sense that it could lift. I think it's also important to note as well, if you are just watching this as a casual viewer on Disney Plus, you've never picked up a comic book before, you're not deep into social media or following the lore, you probably are thinking that this is Nicholas, like this is her son. That's probably the most likely outcome for who you to speculate teen could be. But Rio is the one that reveals, like, this isn't your son. Why do you care so much? This isn't your son. And I want to know what each of you think is the history between the two of them. Now, this could be a romantic, like, you could dive in, take whatever angle you want to take. A romantic history, a history that'll tie directly into the plot, something MCU related, however you want to look at this. What do you specifically think is the history between the two of them? And Jamie, you can go first, but maybe even expand on your theory of why you think Rio could be Blackheart, because you're on the same page as Damon and I, the child of Mephisto.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's obviously romantic. I don't think we can fight that any longer. Well, like the scene when she's like, I love someone, she's my scar. Oh my God, she's my scar is like, what a line. And even when they're in the booth talking about like work and play, and they're totally like flirting and reminiscing about times. And my theory for a while now has been that she's Blackheart and she gave her baby to her father Mephisto. She took it or something. And I think it's interesting though, in this episode, Rio says something online like, I had a job to do. And I do think there's some more complicatedness to whatever happened. I don't think that if Rio did take Agatha's child, now I'm like, maybe it wasn't malicious. I don't know. I think there's more to it. I don't think it's as black and white as we might think. But they almost kissed again. They came so close. If I don't get my kiss, like a flashback kiss would be great, but I need a real-time kiss too, everybody. Listen, you're listening, Feige? But that's what I think is going on between these two ladies.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's got to be a kiss coming up. If not, I think they are just setting us up for disappointment, because you can't give us the multiple almost lip locks and then not finally deliver when we get eventually deeper into the show. The people were, I don't know how the chat got here, but talking about Dwayne The Rock Johnson had a version of The Witch's Road.
Because it was the Rock version.
Oh, the
Carlos
Rock
got
version
confused.
talking about The
Carlos
Witch's Road.
got confused,
Carlos
TJ.
throwing us off. But the part that I find funny is the hierarchy of The Witch's Road is about to change. That got me good. I think that the rumors of Agatha selling her son's soul to the devil for Mephisto for the Darkhold are probably true. This is my initial read on it. That is true. And then she had no intention of ever giving her son up for the Darkhold, because she probably thought, hey, who would Mephisto send? Rio, Blackheart, his child, my love. He's not going to take my child. And so I'm never actually going to have to give him up. I'm going to have the Darkhold. I'm going to have my son. All is going to be dandy. And then Rio probably had to go, I'm sorry, this is my job. You made a deal. I have no choice. I'm taking your son and delivering him to the devil. That's what I think happened. Damon, what do you think is their history?
Yeah, I definitely believe that Rio took her son in some way, shape, or form. Whether she was like the herald of a demon, and that's how Agatha managed to get the Darkhold. It's I don't know at this point. We'll see, but that's what I'm leaning with, right? Like I'm going with. I don't think it was malicious, but she definitely had something in there when they were like, "Oh, is she a Green Witch?" And she's like, "I'm the Green Witch." And I was like, okay. There's something about her, man.
There's something about her, indeed. I do want to shout out somebody in chat. My guy J3 has been watching me for 2 hours prior to this show on the football show I was on. He's coming over from my NFL Roto Grinders shows, and he's joining us for an Agatha All Along. First time with an Agents of Fandom show. So I want to shout out to J3 for joining us, and once again to the chat for so many people interacting with us today. We got a total of 150 people live with us right now across the sites. So thank you for tuning in. Smash the like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I do want to theorize specifically on Billy and Jamie, on Teen, and get your thoughts on if he is Billy, which yes, we all think he is, but who this Billy is, because like Damon said, we're in the multiverse saga. Damon has speculated that when the sigil goes up and he's melding things about his name and his past, that it looks like he says Maximoff as his name, Billy Maximoff. You said that. You look like you changed your mind now.
Yeah. That or Kaplan, whichever way you want to
go. But do you think this is a child of Wanda from a different universe? Do you think this is a Billy Kaplan who's the soul of Billy Maximoff is now in his body? Is it a variant? What do you think?
I'm torn because I think story-wise, the Kaplan story of being like the resurrection kind of story makes the most sense here. But Joe Locke looks like that kid. Like he looks like Julie Hillard. Like he looked like he's supposed to be Billy grown up from this specific actor from WandaVision. So I am torn because I do think story-wise that's where it seems to be going. I don't think he's a multiverse version, but I don't know. I really, no matter what, yes, I believe this is Billy in some way, shape, or form. But it's hard to say.
If it wasn't the multiverse saga that we were in specifically, I would think that like the Easter eggs they're showing, it's definitely got to be Kaplan. It says a lot happened to me at 13. Yeah, that's probably when he got the soul and body and brain of Billy Maximoff. He talks about, oh yeah, my dad used to like cooking a lot. Well, in comics, Billy Kaplan's dad likes cooking and pieces like that. My mom went to a ton of Lorna Woo's concerts. That doesn't sound like something that Wanda would be doing. I think a lot of pieces like that kind of make it seem like it was once Billy Kaplan and then now Billy Maximoff. But it is the multiverse saga, so you absolutely never know. Damon, any other theories or final thoughts on this episode we have not touched on, and what do you think is coming next? Because I got to assume Lilia's trial is going to be the next one, because I can't imagine that any Agatha and Rio's and Billy's Teens, if he gets one, I have to imagine those will be like finale trials as opposed to right in the middle.
Yeah, I don't even know if they will necessarily get trials, just because there's 4 major phases of the moon. So who even knows how many trials we'll get? And technically 5 if you count New Moon as well. But it's like, we don't really know how many trials we'll like get, right? So I think it's pretty interesting in terms of like whether Billy gets a trial, whether Agatha gets a trial or not. But I'm very curious to see what Patty's like trial is going to be, because her little vision was the freakiest out of all of them last episode. So if her trial is like any indication on like the level of spook we're going to get, like I am all in on that.
Shout out to Stuart Patterson for dropping some absolute fire ideas in chat right now. I think the red flash at the end of Multiverse of Badness was Wanda manifesting Billy and Tommy's souls. Agatha entrusted with Billy, and Vision will get Tommy. And the sigil will be lifted once Agatha forgives Wanda for what she did to her in Westview, because he would be in danger knowing who he truly is, because Agatha would probably just want to kill him or torture him if she knew it was Wanda's son. So she can't know, the sigil can't be lifted until he's no longer in danger, until she forgives Wanda or just falls in love with this child and wants to protect him. I think that is a truly, truly wonderful theory. I don't know if necessarily, well, no, Agatha will for sure have a trial of some sense, but I think it's going to go Lillian next with the Wind trial, then Aubrey's Rio's with the Earth trial, and then finalize it with the Agatha stuff. What do you think, Jamie?
Yeah, I think that's possible. You know, I first of all, I have to say that I'm obsessed with Moon Expert Damon. I think this is a really great new thing you've got going on. I initially assumed that the entire show would take place on the road, and now I'm like, maybe not, because there are 5 episodes left. And I'm curious, like, this could go anywhere. I do want to say at the premiere, I overheard someone say episode 5 was like one of the best things Marvel's ever done. And I don't know what that means because I haven't seen it, but like my expectations for episode 5 are through the roof. But I don't know. I never really considered like, oh, every episode will be a trial, whatever. I love Patti LuPone so much. I just can't wait for a Patti LuPone centric episode. I also I don't know what another version of the song would be, but I really hope we get another version of the song, just as many versions of the song as we can get. But I want, there in the trailers, you see Patti LuPone in kind of like a Glinda outfit, and like give me like wicked Broadway version Patti LuPone singing the song, because Patti LuPone is one of the greatest singers that ever lived, and I want to hear her like really go for it.
It would be, I remember one of the first press junkets I ever got to do was for Enchanted 2, for the Enchanted sequel. And I remember them talking in it like, when the first thing we thought of when we decided we were going to do a sequel, like the first priority was making sure that we actually give Idina Menzel a song, because how big of a screw up was that in the first movie, having Idina Menzel being one of the main characters and not giving her a song? Just absolutely ridiculous. You have one of the best singers in the history of the planet and they're not singing. And so it does seem, even though we can actively hear Patti when the songs are happening, I feel like we need a full-on solo version. What's up, Damon?
I just realized we never talked about a name drop that happened in this episode.
What?
They brought up Daughters of Liberty real quick, and that was kind of cool.
Oh, yeah.
Dive into that for me.
Daughters of Liberty is actually a fairly new thing. It's from 2019 Captain America comics, and it's essentially a group of women that were kind of brought together to, in the past, Agatha helped train a group of women during the American Revolution, giving them magic and stuff. But in modern comics, or getting into modern storytelling, it became more of like a Peggy-led group, and Agatha sort of helped out. But it was just kind of like, hey, look, that's cool. That's something from a fairly recent Marvel comic too. Just sprinkle on in there, maybe a little Peggy Carter, a little Dazzle. You never know. But it was just a nice little name drop that I just wanted to shout out.
Heck yeah, absolutely. As soon as you said Peggy, it reminded me that just today I'm very, very excited because I booked 3 meet and greet autograph at booth signings for New York Comic Con over the next couple days. I did look, and Lizzie Olsen's was sold out, so I didn't even have to consider spending all the money for it. But I got all 3 of these for less money than one with Lizzie Olsen would have costed, so I'm still feeling pretty good about it. I got Haley Atwell, Peggy Carter. I got John Boyega, which I'm incredibly excited about, and Freddie Prinze Jr., who of course is Freddie Prinze Jr., which is exciting, but I feel like he doesn't do a lot of convention stuff anymore, and Kanan Jarrus is one of my favorite Star Wars characters, and so I can't wait to bring a little Kanan something for him to sign. I think I'm going to do a little picture so I can get Kanan on one side, Ezra on the other, get them both there. I'm excited about that.
I love
Jamie,
that.
what are you hoping we get to see in this series outside of, I mean, not just outside of, elaborate if you want to more. Obviously we hope we get an Agatha and Rio kiss, but what else? What are you hoping we get either from a plot standpoint, character standpoint, whatever, for these last 5 episodes?
Kiss songs. I mean, I've said this before, but I mean, I would love to see Wanda, of course, but I'm not going to be mad if we don't see her. Like, it's not hinging on that, right? Like, I always want to see Wanda. I'd love to see Wanda. I really am torn on whether or not they will show her. So yeah.
Shout out to Chris Chipperson coming to the chat. Said he heard Jamie was here, so he wanted to tune in. Has not seen the episode yet, but we appreciate you coming in. And he says to check out Resball on Netflix. I've seen the previews I've seen the trailers for that. It looks pretty cool, so I'm definitely interested in checking that out. Damon, how about you? Anything in particular you're really hoping we get in these last final 5 episodes?
Mephisto.
Actually seeing him.
I don't think we'll actually see Mephisto. Maybe more hints of him if we got a little tease at the very, very end. Because, look, my big grand theory of it all is that Mephisto is actually the driving force behind the Young Avengers saga, all starting out with WandaVision and then dazzling and kind of sprinkling his way through into Ironheart until very finally the Young Avengers have to go off and find the Scarlet Witch, where in the Young Avengers book, she was with... kind of, not knowing who she is, but she's with Doom. But we can't do that in the MCU because, well, that would be very confusing. So how about we put her with Mephisto instead?
I like it. I think it winds up perfectly with, all the older heroes are busy fighting Doctor Doom as we lead into Avengers, Doomsday, and Secret Wars. And so they realize they have no chance to win. And so this Young Avengers group gets together to go find the Scarlet Witch, the one being strong enough to help take down Doom. I think it sets up have Loki in there somewhere working as the Beyonder character, assembling a battle world, and all the pieces are coming together. Jamie, where can the people find you on socials? What do you have coming in terms of the Love and the Time of Hydra podcast? Because I know this weekend should be a very exciting one.
Yes. So Love and the Time of Hydra is my Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. 10th anniversary podcast. TJ's been on before. We revisit every episode of the show on its 10th anniversary. And this Sunday, October 6th, we are talking season 2, episode 3, live in person at LA Comic-Con. We have a panel, room 402A at 1 o'clock. We've got some special guests. We've got Screen Rant's Joe Duckelmeyer and my boy Brandon Davis. We may not have our podcast, but we still have each other, and we will be doing as much as we can together until the end of time, I hope. So I'm really excited about that. You can follow Lido at LidoPod on Instagram and Twitter. And then for me, it's at Jamie Jirak on Instagram, Letterboxd, and TikTok, and at Jamie Cinematics on Twitter.
Carlos in chat, and I got distracted. He says, I believe the Daughters of Liberty were at the Capitol on January 6th. And that made me laugh. But if you're in the LA area, and you're going to LA Comic-Con, definitely go check out Jamie's panel there. I wish I could be there. That would be absolutely incredible. Make sure you check it out. And if you're not already subscribed, subscribe to LITTOH, Love in the Time of Hydra, the best Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. podcast that you can find, because I feel like I can be an authority on that because we're the Agents of Fandom. We say welcome to level 7 at the beginning of every episode. It's very Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. coded. And so I feel like I have good authority to say that. Make sure you check out agentsoffandom.com because we have lots of great content up there right now. Every week I'm covering Agatha All Along, The Penguin, Only Murders in the Building, plus Aisha, Ryan, Ethan, all at Toronto International Film Festival a couple weeks ago. The reviews are still coming in from that because they got to see so many wonderful movies. Just recently posted today We Live in Time review with Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh from Ryan. Make sure you check that out. And tons of other great articles as well. Damon, what do we got coming up on the Comic Corner?
Comic books, man. It's what we do. We review and we talk about comic books, man. There's a lot of good ones out this week. This is October is a big renaissance, not even a renaissance. It's a big month for DC. It's called DC All In Initiative, All In, which means it's a good time to just bounce into any DC book. It's at the start of a new arc, so you can just pick it up and get right on into it. There's a new special that just came out today. It's called the DC All In Special. It sets up this new absolute universe, and yes, that includes the universe with the really jacked Batman and the really emo Superman and the really badass Wonder Woman, who's even more badass because she is a witch raised in hell. It is epic. It is awesome. Go check it out. My only recommendation for that all-in tie-in is that it's a flip book, which means it is split in half. It is 60 pages, so there's 32 pages read one way. You flip it on to the other side, 32 pages read the other way. Read the alpha story first, and then the omega story, and the story will flow much better.
And you can check out Damon's interview with am I correct, the author of that Wonder Woman, that's the Wonder Woman that Kelly is doing?
That
correct?
Is the absolute Wonder Woman that Kelly's doing.
And so you can check out Damon's interview with Kelly Thompson up on the Comic Corner page on our YouTube channel, or on the Agents of Fandom YouTube page, as well as many other great interviews and shows. We're covering the Penguin each week. We got the Fellowship of Fandom Rings of Power show, where Fat Thor, Listen 3000, and one of our newest writers, Georgie Rodriguez, will be breaking down the finale. So make sure you tune in for that one coming up soon as well. I'm not positive who our guest is going to be for Agatha next week. We got some stuff to figure out with guests next week and what we are going to do with episode 6, because Damon and I are going to be in New York with some friends meeting up for New York Comic Con and some hangouts. And so we're still potentially working on hopefully maybe doing something live while we're there for since we're going to be together anyways, but that'll depend if we can get to a location with good enough internet. And if not, it'll probably be the return of Adam having to fill in there. So we're going to see if he's available. We're going to see if we can get some live, but stay tuned for that one. We will hopefully get Jamie back for one more episode as well, pending it will work with her schedule. So fingers crossed on that one. But want to say again, thank you to everyone who tuned in and joined us. Smash that like button. The chat was on fire today. So we thank you for hanging out, and we will see you again next time. Peace, everybody.
Bye.